and all. I, Shubhangi Giripunje, Associate Teen R&D, feel privileged to welcome you all to the PhD pre-submission seminar of PhD scholar Mr. Syed Rizwan Ahmad, Computer Science and Engineering Department, on the topic Analysis and Design of Efficient Generalized Forensic Framework for Mobile Devices. Dr. Amit Kumar is CEO and Chief Scientific Officer of BioAccess DNA Research Center Private Limited. Academically, Dr. Amit Kumar is a professor at Foundation Bangalore and on forensic and medical bioinformatics. He has published more than 30 research papers in peer-reviewed national and international journals. His research interest is in applied computational intelligence, forensic bioinformatics, computational biology and bioinformatics, reverse vaccinology, oncoim informatics. I would like to invite Dr. E.S. Wankere to present Laurel Bouquet to respected guest Dr. Amit Kumar. Thank you, sir. I now request.
And with permission of the respected chair, I'm going to start my pre-submission seminar. First of all, I would like to welcome all of you for my pre-submission seminar. And my seminar topic is Analysis and Design of Generalized Forensic Framework for Mobile Devices. This work is done under guidance of Dr. Rajiv Dharaskar, and the research work was carried out at Department of Computer Science, GSRC. This is the outline of my talk. I'm going to introduce my topic. I'm going to discuss the relevant literature survey, the motivation for the topic, the problem statement which I have covered for my research, the aims and objectives, the scope of my research, some of the limitations, and most importantly, all the existing methodologies which are relevant to my research. And finally, after that proposed methodology, its design, implementation work what I have done, the experimental results and analysis, followed by conclusion, future scope, and some of the selected references which I have used for this presentation and my published research work. As all of you know, we live in an era where we have two personalities. One is physical personality, second is digital personality. And all of us have digital persona, wherein we interact with a lot of digital systems, and those digital systems store information about us. And that interaction is done using multitude of devices, and that interaction stores a lot of information about us. Most important device these days is mobile device, which is used for doing communication with different systems. That may involve some social networking sites, banking sites, different business applications which might we use, and that all information is being exchanged using all the mobile devices which are out there. So mobile device basically is not just a personal device anymore. It is used for doing a lot of things which could be relevant for all of us for that digital persona. This results in it being potentially used for carrying out various crimes. So the slide which I'm showing here, it shows the three vectors using which we can carry out various attacks using mobile devices. So first is I can carry out attack using the device itself. I can carry out attacks using the network. I can carry out attack using the data center. And there are multitude of attacks which could be carried out. So as part of my research, I have studied all these attacks, and the main aim of this research work is to uncover digital evidence to find out the crime was done using that device. That's the main research focus of this topic. So to uncover evidence, there is a new field which was invented very recently in the years around 2000. Specifically around 2002-2003. The field name is mobile forensics, and mobile forensics is branch of digital forensics which is relating to recovery of digital evidence from mobile devices under forensically sound conditions. So most important thing here to note is whatever evidence you are uncovering, it should be uncovered using forensically sound conditions. There is one more definition by NIST, which is one of the renowned bodies. for digital forensics and mobile forensics, and they have defined mobile forensics as process of preservation, then acquisition, examination, analysis, followed by reporting for uncovering all the evidence from the mobile devices. So this mobile forensics have taken a lot of focus these days, considering the various crimes which are being carried out using the mobile devices. So it's an evolving specialty, as I said. This is a very new area. I have been involved in this research from almost year 2007 because I had interest in network security, mobile security and other aspects. There are a lot of goals of mobile forensics, and that includes, the most prominent goal is finding out evidence from mobile devices so that the person who have carried out crime could be prosecuted in court of law. And there are like a lot of things which we need to keep in mind when we carry out any forensic examination of mobile devices. Considering this, there are many research problems and complexities, and some of it I have studied and discussed in some of the future slides. So some of the challenges which are out there. So first challenge is, the biggest challenge is the mobility aspect of mobile devices. Mobile devices are very small in nature. They are portable. You can carry these devices anywhere in the world. I can have a phone which I have purchased in India, and I can carry that phone to any other country. By connecting to the relevant network, I can still make use of that device. After committing my crime, I can take that device anywhere. So that mobility aspect is a very complex thing. Next is, since these mobile devices work on mobile operating systems, we have file systems which reside in volatile memory. This again causes a lot of problems. So if I'm going to restart my phone, all the evidence which might be there on that device, it will be lost, which is unlike most of the computer forensics techniques. Next is hibernation behavior, which is different as compared to computer devices, wherein if I put my computer in hibernation mode, there could be limited files. But in case of mobile phone, there could be a lot of processes which are still active even if my device is in hibernation state. There are a variety of embedded proprietary and open source operating systems that again complicates this process. If you compare this with computer forensics, there are only 3 or 4 major operating systems which are out there. But if you talk about mobile devices, there could be 40, 50 different operating systems which are still evolving day by day. Again, one of the major difference as compared to computer forensics is there is short product cycles for all mobile devices. You must be noticing every 3 months there is a new version of new operating system coming in, new devices coming in, which adds to complexity. And they bring in new challenges for carrying out mobile forensics. Another important factor which affects mobile forensics is proprietary hardware. So companies like Apple, they don't disclose what they have used inside the device. That complicates this process. If we know what's inside, we can carry out the forensic work using the different techniques which are out there by knowing the fact. But if they are not disclosing that, again it complicates that. Again, one of the important challenges is maintaining the data integrity and forensic soundness. If I'm uncovering any evidence, if it is not forensically sound, I cannot go in court and prove that this crime was carried out using this device because I am not able to prove the forensic soundness of the method which I have employed. Again, important challenge is there are certain mobile devices which don't have interfaces to connect them to computers. This is again very important aspect. So if I need to uncover evidence, the most common method is to connect that device to computer so that I can carry out my forensic investigation and uncover all the evidence from there. Another major challenge is, which is evolving day by day, is massive volume of data. These phone devices they are having a lot of memory these days. Old devices used to be like probably 64 MB. If we talk about new devices, it goes to 128 GB and beyond. Most of the devices these days have capacity of 32 GB, which is very common. So if I need to carry out investigation on these devices, previously it used to take minutes to uncover the evidence. Now this might take, or maybe the time involved might be in days. That again complicates this. There are different mobile phone standards. So if there is a device manufacturer, they have their own standards. So you must have seen, if I have an Apple phone, the cable which is used for Apple phone is not compatible with the Samsung phone. So this again causes a lot of challenges for carrying out forensic investigation. Again, if you look at website called as mobile.com. This is a website which will give you database of all the mobile devices which are out there. So they have currently listed prominently 1964 mobile phone models, and all their technical specifications are given there. So you can see what operating system they have, what processor is being used there, and things like that. So you can imagine how much fragmentation is there in terms of mobile devices being used. Next is admissibility of evidence in court of law. Another important aspect for mobile devices is the connection to internet, which is 24/7, and it's very easy to get that. Previously, it was difficult. Like you did not have technologies like 3G, 4G, Wi-Fi. Now it's coming everywhere. So this becomes another complexity because I can carry my mobile phone. I have a Wi-Fi at GHRC. I can break into that Wi-Fi and carry out my crime. So it's that complex. New challenges like these devices are password protected, and even devices could be encrypted. So recently Apple has come up with new encryption mechanism in iOS 8, which makes it very difficult for decrypting that. This again causes a lot of complexity. Now moving on to my literature survey relevant to this topic. I have studied more than 200 research papers which are relevant to my work, and when I carried out this work, I referred a lot of commercial forensic tools which are out there so that I can do comparison of my framework with the relevant commercial tools which are out there. So most prominent tools which are used in industry are FTK, UFED, Oxygen Forensic Suite, XRY, Paraben, Device Feature, and MP+. I believe one of these toolkits is again available at our research center at GHRC, and this is again, as I said, is used. These commercial tools are used throughout the world. These toolkits are analyzed by various researchers, and they have identified certain potential problems when we make use of these toolkits. So I'm going to discuss those in some of the future slides. But from the perspective of my research, where the evidence lies. So it can be classified into three parts. The evidence could be found on SIM, that is subscriber identity module, which is the brain of your phone, because without that, you don't have any interaction with your network. Next is phone's embedded memory. The memory could be classified into two types based on the phone model what you have. Again, these days, all the phones have option of removable memory, which could be SD card and other cards which are out there. This slide lists out the various potential evidence items which could be uncovered from different devices. So this is categorized according to a normal phone, then smartphone, if I'm using some third-party device. So all the evidences are listed out here. So some of the common evidences which are based on even my involvement in some of the relevant cases is SMSs, your email, then after that calendar entries and things like that. So this is classified based on all the different parameters which are out there. So for carrying out SIM card forensics, we have various tools which are out there. So I have studied those tools as well. Similarly, there are various researchers who have carried out research on mobile memory. So how data is stored in RAM, data is stored in files, data is stored in database files like SQLite, which is prominent method of storing the data in these ports. Again, there is external storage involved, so how to do forensics on those storage, that is also discussed. Then there is service provider logs, so you must be watching serials like Crime Patrol, CSI, so you must be seeing a lot of crimes are solved using this method. So a lot of researchers have already studied these methodology. That is out of scope of my research work. Then data stored on connected systems. So connected systems could be the system using which you take backup of your phone, or cloud systems these days. All of our data is on cloud these days. So these connected systems store a lot of potential evidence. Some of the evidence guides which are prominently used are listed on this slide. So one of the evidence guide which is referred in US is by United States Secret Service, because they carry out a lot of raids and maybe attacks, and they uncover potential evidence. So they follow guide called as Best Practices Guide for Seizing Electronic Evidence. This is followed in US. Then again, National Institute of Justice, this is again in US, Electronic Crimes in Investigation. Then there is guide from ACPO, which is based out of UK. It's called as Good Practice Guide. And there are 3 guidelines which are provided by National Institute in US, that is NIST. So couple of guidelines were issued in year 2006, 2007, and they have come up with a new guideline in year 2014. IOC also has come up with these guidelines, and similarly SWGD, which is again a working group of digital forensics professionals, they have also come up with standards and principles. Unfortunately, there is no guide available in India which is relevant to Indian scenario. So as part of my research, again I have focused on carrying out certain guidelines which could be relevant, and I have taken feedback from relevant law enforcement agencies so that this could be actually practical and useful for Indian scenarios. In this slide, you will see the pyramid which is followed for doing evidence acquisition from mobile devices. So at the bottom of pyramid, you will see manual acquisition. Above that is logical acquisition, then heads down, chip off, and micro read. So manual acquisition is very simple to do according to brothers, because this doesn't involve any forensic knowledge. You take the phone, look at the evidence. So if I want to see, like, if somebody has sent a text message, I'll look at that by opening the relevant phone using the interface. But this could basically cause some data change also. So this is not forensically sound. So manual is not forensically sound, but the ease of use is very simple in case of manual acquisition. So again, the accuracy level of manual technique is very low. If you go to the next level, that is logical acquisition, wherein you try to take logical backup of all the files which will be available on the device. So you try to make use of various APIs which are exposed by relevant operating system, and you do file copy of all the operations. So this is more forensically sound, but you require some knowledge of how to do this. Again, if I go up, all 3 methods come under physical extraction. So all of them are very complex, require a lot of forensic knowledge. So if I need to carry out hex dump, I need to use a software which can be used for carrying out the hex dump of the complete phone. But important thing here is it's going to get bit by bit copy of the complete phone. That is the major advantage. But for doing that, I'll need interface like a cable or some other communication protocol to carry out that, and it's very complex to do. Same is chip off. So most of you might be thinking that if I break my phone, all the data in that phone has gone. It's not like that. Using chip off technique, you can take the chip out, you can mount it on a cheap reading device, and you can still copy that data. Similarly, another technique which is employed by a lot of researchers is I can take the chip out, mount it on the same model, and again I can extract the evidence. That is again a very important technique. Again, most complex is micro read, wherein you have you can say a micro reader, which is like in biology, you know that microscope is there to look at the different evidence factor when you do DNA analysis and things like that. So in this case, this micro read is employed for electronic devices. So this is the most complex method and most forensically sound method. Again, there are certain other techniques which were studied by other researchers that includes remote data acquisition, local data acquisition, agent-based acquisition, and file system forensics. Again, important factors from this literature survey I could gather is there is continual need to develop new forensic tools and techniques, and the reason for that is the new challenges which are coming up, new devices which are coming up, so we need to keep a pace. Even commercial tools company find it very difficult to provide support. Sometimes they take more than a year to provide support to new devices. Solutions for physically damaged mobile phones is another challenge. So I was talking about a chip-off technique which is very relevant because these days people are getting smart. They know a lot of anti-forensic techniques which could be employed for damaging the phone so that the evidence could not be uncovered. But there are ways and means using which we can do it. Apart from this, I have studied a lot of evidence representation formats, and those were employed while designing the evidence representation and process in my case. Here is the comparison of all the tools which are out there. Another important thing is whenever you carry out any mobile device investigation, we need to do temporal analysis, relational analysis, and functional analysis. So temporal analysis is time event analysis. So you need to carry out your investigation in such a fashion that you can create correlation. A lot of the crimes are being solved these days using that. Next is relational analysis, wherein if there is a drug cartel or there are terrorists who are involved, so how they are related to each other, that could be found out using relational analysis. Same is for functional analysis. If I have malwares or viruses, so I need to simulate them in my labs or on the relevant devices to see how those malwares or viruses might be working. Again, moving to motivation, there are a lot of motivating factors for this research. Special one being data acquired from mobile devices could be used as evidence in a lot of crime cases. This is happening in India and throughout the world. There are certain countries it is compulsory to seize the mobile phones as part of any warrants, or if somebody is being taken into custody, it's compulsory for them to do that. It's not the case in India, but a lot of countries like UK and US, it's compulsory in most of the cases. Another important motivation is there are no validated frameworks which are out there. Again, most important factor of doing this research is there is no uniformity. I wanted to come up with a generalized forensic method which can be employed for most of the forensic methods for all the different mobile devices. Again, that motivated me to come up with new and generate an universal paradigm to carry out mobile forensics. Numerous commercial tools are out there. They have been studied and researched by different researchers out there, and they found out a lot of limitations. Even the same tool, if it is used twice, the evidence acquired was found to be different. That was another major challenge. And that is very important thing, because if you need to prove in court of law that whatever evidence you have acquired, it should be forensically sound. Again, lot of tools lack ability to extract the evidence from all the mobile devices. As I said, that is again major challenge. No standard methods are out there. Enormous difficulties due to intrusive nature of the data which is being stored on these devices. Data can be modified and wiped out remotely using anti-forensic techniques. There are a lot of software which are available using which we can do these things these days. A lot of challenges due to amount of data and how that data is being stored. Again, all the existing tools employ slow manual reverse engineering process, which is again a difficult thing. So I have taken another approach which probably solves this problem. Again, none of these tools attempt to parse previously unseen phones. So if there is a new phone coming in, I need to again add support for that. If people are going to use my framework, then this won't happen. So that's what motivated me to come up with efficient and generalized approach for coming up with first acquiring the data, then doing analysis on that data. This is the problem statement of my research. So I wanted to specifically focus on certain problems. So first problem was to study all forensic artifacts which could be uncovered from mobile devices. So extensive research was carried out to understand what could be potential evidence on these devices. Again, next focus area was to be able to extract all these artifacts. This was again very, very important. Again, when we are going to do this extraction, it should be forensically sound. Nature. So that caused me a lot of problem. So I could do my research using very limited set of tools. Again, I focused on limited access to privileged data. So there could be certain data which could be stored on the provider side. So I could not access that. I have studied a lot of existing methodologies. So these are some of the forensics processes which have been designed by different researchers, which are related to mobile devices only. Then mobile forensics processes which are still continued here. Some of the important thing which I observed here was most of these processes had repetitiveness in the processes, and the focus area and the characteristics were very vague. Sometimes it was not probably following the proper method. That was very important. Again, I could make out the forensic procedures that should be followed in general. They were not being followed. Again, I carried out a lot of research on the existing methodologies. So for Android forensics, these researchers have done a lot of research work. So Lester and Casers, Andre Hoog, he is a very famous guy. He has come up with a lot of good tools which could be useful. Simo et al, Vidas, he has come up with a tool wherein if the device is locked using passcode or encryption, so how to solve that. Same with Grover, Muller as well. So all these methods were studied. Then for BlackBerry forensics, we had Fairbanks, Shashidharan and Thomas, Belenko, Marzogi, all of them. These are all existing methodology which I have studied. Now coming to proposed methodology. So based on the existing methodology which I studied, I could find out the existing methods are time consuming and they lack a lot of things which could make it to be an efficient and universal framework. So what I did is I focused on a specific area called as enable triage based data recovery from mobile devices. So what is triage based recovery is it involves extraction of evidence on scene so that it is done in less amount of time and it could be useful for getting all the data. Again, this is useful for getting the partial results. Extensive results could be gathered when you come back to the forensic lab. Again, a lot of experiments were conducted so that I could prove the forensic soundness of the approach which was used. And for doing that, I followed NIST guidelines according to Computer Forensics Tool Testing Program. This is followed world over by all the providers. This is the proposed methodology and I have come up with this triage process. So there are various phases which are out there. First phase is evidence acceptance phase, identification phase, preparation phase, isolation phase. And after that, we have iterative phases called as processing, verification, documentation, reporting, and presentation. And this can continue till the time you have more evidence which could be uncovered from the relevant devices. And finally, whatever data you have uncovered, that could be archived inside the system. So this was a very unique model after studying all the existing process models which are out there. A lot of advantages are provided by this process. First of all, this can act as guidelines for examination of mobile devices. I have studied all the different guidelines, but they were lacking a lot of things. Again, this gives a lot of advantage in terms of adoption of consistent and well-documented examination. This is need of the hour because there are no guidelines which are out there for forensics. And this could act as a specific guide for forensic examiners and digital investigators, specifically in the field of mobile forensics. I came up with a worksheet which could be used for carrying out the relevant examination. Again, this was submitted to different law enforcement agencies and they provided feedback and this was finalized according to that. This was the flowchart which was designed to carry out the implementation part in the future. Next is I focused on the design part in such a way that the approach should be data driven so that we can get all the evidence from these devices. Another aspect was the design should be able to quickly parse all the data and we should be able to obtain high quality results. That was the other focus area. Next important thing of this design was to probably examine the already set of available devices and probably use them to compare the result with unseen devices. That was the other important design criteria. So that is what was leveraged for recovering information from new devices. So this is the architecture of old methodologies wherein like you don't have you probably have low parallelism because you have single license or issues like that, reduced coverage. This is the forensic triage model which was designed as part of this process. So we started with the exhibit mobile and after that the data extraction algorithm was applied. All the completely extracted data was subjected to chunk hash filtering, which is the unique methodology which was designed as part of this research. Then using this method, historical chunk hash store was maintained so that we can do comparison of unseen devices and maybe use the existing devices to carry out the research for future devices to be adopted. Again, output of this was filtered byte stream which was given to inference engine and therein VerTB and decision tree algorithm along with probabilistic finite state machine was employed and complete data was stored in XML format so that we can have information interchange between different systems which are out there because XML is a highly interchangeable format. Finally, the relevant evidence was extracted and the forensic report could be generated by the forensic investigator. So very less knowledge was required to carry out all this work by the forensic investigator because the complete process is designed in such a way that it is all automated. So there are a lot of advantages. So first advantage is the acquisition algorithm. So acquisition algorithm is done in a way that the agent is installed on the device for uncovering all the evidence and all the evidence is copied on the memory slot. This is the vision when the model was designed. It should be able to examine all the data, improve parallelism, and the forensic operator should have minimal involvement. And most important thing was it should be open source in nature so that new methodologies and the new models could be adopted. So this all work will be published in open source so that people can add more features to the framework which I am designing here. So again, open source is one of the advantages, so it will be freely available. This is going to authorize testing and comparison with other tools which are out there. Currently, it supports a lot of different platforms. So current implementation which I've done supports Symbian, Android, Windows, BlackBerry, iPhone, and iPad, which is almost more than 95% of the devices which are out there. Again, I have made use of Digital Forensics Framework, which is an open source framework for carrying out this work, so that this is extensible again and people can develop the new plugin. This is modular in nature. All the programming platforms which are used, they are object-oriented in nature. So object-oriented programming languages are very useful these days. So most of us know these programming languages. So the intent was we should focus on code reusability. People should be able to again redevelop these things using the existing code which is out there. Some of the main components of the proposed work is first of all the forensic acquisition that involved the agent which was installed on Android, iOS, Windows Mobile, Symbian and BlackBerry devices. I'll come to the experimental analysis shortly. The inference engine involved probabilistic finite state machines and optimized vertically algorithm for doing the transition probabilities. And finally, evidence representation, archival and storage was done using XML. So this is the implementation diagram. As you can see, the mobile device and the tablet devices were involved. The forensic investigator used to run the agent on this device, acquire all the evidence, bring it to the forensic workstation, and the rest of the steps were carried out. And for collaboration, the complete data was exported in XML format. The data could be exported in cloud. Again, the important aspect and the research contribution was the evidence acquisition procedure. So the method followed was till the time more data or files are available on the relevant device, we used to calculate the MD5 and SHA1 to prove the forensic soundness before the file was copied and after the file was copied. So file was copied, file was accessed, it was opened, and finally after the copy is done, we used to calculate the relevant hash function again to see everything is forensically sound and that no data is changed during the process. Everything was maintained in XML files to see if there is any variation, errors, or check some values are matching or not. This is the pseudocode for the algorithm, which is in line with the previous flowchart I have just showcased. So there are a lot of advantages of evidence acquisition algorithm which I have implemented for different devices. The first advantage is the full coverage. Using this method, we can cover all the complete files which are out there. There is parallelism in acquisition. So if I have 10 devices, I need to just install that agent on those 10 devices and I can still collect that information. Respect of integrity, because we are following all the forensically sound processes. There is no need for one-on-one cables, which is the biggest limitation for all the current tools. If you need to extract data, you need to have those cables, without which this was not possible. Again, the hardware incompatibility was transformed into software compilation. So we have probably converted the disadvantage into advantage when the implementation of this acquisition algorithm was done. So this is the complete implementation I have just explained. So moving forward to the data analysis and reporting part. So in this, the filtering mechanism was followed, wherein hash sets were created for all the devices, and we had a multi-step inference process, which was based on probabilistic finite state machines. And finally, the output of the complete process was digital evidence, which was representing the information found on the phone. Again, these PFSMs which were used can be updated to improve the process manually based on certain reverse engineering or based on my knowledge about certain devices. This is the chunk hash filtering, which was implemented as part of this implementation. So this is the raw stream. And what we did is we split this into overlapping chunks. So these are like different blocks. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to uncover the most prominent evidence which could be relevant to us. So evidence in our case could be a text message, address book or something like that. So once we get that, the collision was happening, and after filtering the evidence was extracted. So here is an example of chunk cache filtering. So this is the raw data. This shows the Unicode value, the 12-digit phone number and timestamp. So based on the implementation which was done, the Unicode string gives the name of the relevant person, his 12-digit phone number, as you can see in this case, and finally the timestamp. So this is showing an example of call log, how the call log could be uncovered using this methodology. Again, next set was inference engine, so which involved like parsing using the standard probabilistic methods, and the model was involved. And the focus was on finding the maximum likelihood parse technique, so that we could get the relevant data and we can leave the data which could not be relevant from the forensic perspective. So finally the output is a set of call log, address book records and the other evidence which could be relevant to the mobile devices. So other examples could be timestamps, phone numbers, strings, other structures which are relevant according to the evidence which could be found on the mobile devices. So how this was achieved is using probabilistic finite state machines. So PSFM used to consist with one or more states. So depending upon what kind of data we are trying to extract, we implemented the PFSM. I'm going to show you one example shortly. Again, from one state to other state, when the transition used to happen, we used to give given probability so that the matching could happen. Each state generally emits a single byte so that the comparison is easy to do. Again, some of the examples could be the bytes could range from 0x00 to 0xFF. So the distribution of probability was over these two. Again, the focus was on the output probability should be set in such a way that we should be able to get maximum matches. So here is an example. So if I'm having ASCII alphabets, the values could range from A to Z or capital A to Z. So accordingly, relevant non-zero probabilities were assigned for the relevant implementation of probabilistic finite state machines. Again, every PFSM was targeted towards a specific data type. So I've shown you an example of call log. Similarly, the another could be text message and things like that. So different probabilistic finite state machines were implemented for targeting specific data types that match can happen. Again, important assumption. I've just seen an example of number PFSM. Similarly, we can have a name PFSM and we can have a timestamp PFSM, and the relevant probabilities are defined so that we can get the relevant outcome. Here is an example of byte stream wherein could be certain data could be of arbitrary length. So a catch-all PFSM was implemented so that we can do direct matching for all the relevant PFSM and get the output of the data which might be relevant for us. Again, one of the important aspects of coding this PFSM was we made use of hex editor as well as manual reverse engineering process so that we could come up with proper process of creating these state machines properly. Existing logic was used for creating new logic. This was again very important in here. Again, investigation involved post-triage analysis. So considering different device, the data might be stored in different formats. So based on the relevant implementation was adjusted. And most important focus was on high recall and the precision when the relevant state machines were implemented. Next is for doing the matching process in a way that highest likelihood happens. We made use of dynamic programming algorithm called as VertiPre algorithm, which is very famous, which is used for variety of applications, specifically in pattern matching. So this was used so that we could find the state sequence so that the relevant data which is important for forensic investigation could be uncovered. So in the implementation case, the VertiPre was used twice. So we had field level implementation as well as record level. So record is basically a hierarchical implementation of field level implementation. So at first pass, filtered byte stream was passed, and the field level PSF was used as input. And the output of that was given to record level, so that the matching could be done for the complete record level hierarchical implementation. Again, this hierarchical vertebrae algorithm provided very good implementation in terms of transition probabilities. So this resulted in most likely type which could match the relevant evidence. So this was another great advantage. And the probabilities and the numerical values for the relevant fields and records were set in such a fashion that the match could happen properly. Next important component of the relevant implementation is evidence representation, archival and storage. So after studying the existing evidence representation format and the relevant processes, I came up with a single and unified XML evidence representation format, which is very unique considering the information interchange between different tools. This probably helps in doing proper evidence representation and analysis. Even we can make use of annotations, XML annotations, and finally the data could be stored in the database. And we can make use of tools like XQuery for carrying out more in-depth analysis of the relevant data. So this gives us benefit of declarative general purpose query language. So I need not do any new implementation. I made use of XQuery language after the representation in XML was done. So this is how it used to happen. So case evidence corpus was there. It was represented in XML. So it was converted into output of database format. It was inserted into database. So everything is being stored in XML. So this is the complete XML data. And finally, it can be exported in the XML format. And when you are working on this XML case data, we can make use of tools like XQuery for carrying out the relevant analysis. And here is the complete framework how it interacts with the complete process of evidence representation, archival and storage. For reporting, DFF plugins were there, used. So here is one of the examples. There were different plugins which were used for carrying out different things. So here you can see some of the missing or deleted images and how they were uncovered. Moving over to the experimental results and analysis based on the implementation. Complete forensic testing environment was set up according to the different guidelines and processes which are out there. Most important thing which was followed was the workstation was isolated from all other networks so as to avoid any inference or interference or any accidental change of data. And finally, the benchmarking was done using manually collecting the artifacts as well as comparing the extracted data with other commercial tools which are out there. And this is the evaluation criteria which was followed during the experimental analysis. So the acquisition method was compared with other commercial tools which are out there, how the performance is, how much data is being extracted, and what's the precision and recall rate and things like that. Performance of chunk hash filtering, which is a very unique implementation as part of this research. Again, VerTB based inference process, its performance was evaluated. And finally, this was compared with other methods which are out there. So as part of implementation, Symbian acquisition process is explained here. So acquisition agent was first mounted on the relevant device using the SD card, and once the acquisition was started, the process was completed in few minutes, and all the data was dumped on the memory card, and the process followed was as explained during the design part. So important thing followed was MD5 and SHA hash code was completed and stored, as well as the last modification time was stored before the data was copied and after the data is copied, so that the comparison could be carried out so as to ensure that all the data which is being copied is forensically sound. And the information was stored using universal XML format as I just explained. So here is the comparison, here is the commercial tool, and here is the acquisition algorithm implemented by me. So here some of the data which was extracted by commercial tool was not relevant, as you can see in excess here, and my implementation probably did not consider that data because it was not relevant considering they being some of the operating system files. Here is the comparison in terms of commercial tool and the framework acquisition. So the time and the data size was compared here. Here Windows Mobile acquisition process is outlined and some of the relevant screenshots. So here the complete process is outlined. Once the data is dumped successfully, we get this form. And the complete hash value and other things are probably maintained. This is for Android. So in case of Android, the similar methodology is followed. This is for BlackBerry. This is for iPhone. This is for iPad again. Again, similar methodology as it was employed in other devices was again followed. This is the acquisition throughput comparison. So based on the block sizes, if the 32 KB block is there, so this shows the throughput in megabits per second. So if the block size is less, the speed is you can say more in terms of per megabits per second. But if you increase the block size, the throughput decreases. Then this is the chunk hash filtering performance based on the different block sizes. Performance of inference engine for call logs. So there was like recall and precision implementation. So as you can see, we could manage to achieve high recall for important data like call logs, which is very important for mobile devices. Again, some of the post-processing work which was done as part of inference engine improved the relevant inference performance. It gave better results. Same is for address book, the recall and precision values. Again, for after post-processing, the results were infused. In some cases, we could get 100% performance. That is again very unique. Again, this complete work was compared with some of the existing methodologies which are out there. Unfortunately, there is no methodology which is similar to this, but some of the components are similar to some of the existing methodologies which are out there. That included Polyglot, Putney, and Dispatcher. These are instrumentation-based approaches for reverse engineering, which were used in other forensic acquisitions. But they were studied and compared so that we could see whether we are able to get better precision as compared to those methodologies. Again, the concept of chunk hash filtering was probably not used the way I have used it in my case, but block hashes were used by Garfinkel, who is one of the prominent researchers in this field. So again, I compared my work with them and I have used it in a very unique way so that I could uncover all the evidence. In his case, he used it in a way to just do hash comparisons. That was the major difference. Then there is the RC algorithm which is used for different implementations. So comparison was again done with that. Then there is the Karp-Robin signature-based string search algorithm, which is again used for searching. So the inference performance were used to compare with these algorithms, and we could get better precision as compared to them. And most recent work is done by Waltz at University of Massachusetts, and this work was presented at Usenix very recently. So again, my triage model was compared with Waltz triage model so that we could compare and show that the work which I have carried out is better. And in terms of conclusion, the major output as part of this research is, first of all, extensive examination was carried out to understand the nature of digital evidence. Validation and integrity verification was carried out and studied properly so that the same could be used during the implementation. Examination of cryptographic hashing mechanisms were carried out, and more than 2 to 3 research papers were published to showcase which hashing technique is better as compared to others. That was again one of the important output of research. Then using this framework, the current problem of digital forensics, which involves complexity, volume and interoperability, was solved because this is a unique method which is generalized and could be applied for all different devices. Again, this was made possible using the universal acquisition algorithm, which can be implemented for different mobile operating system platforms. And finally, all the data was represented in an XML-based representation by studying the existing methodologies and coming up with this representation, which could be useful for information exchange between different forensic investigators. Important contribution again was chunk hash filtering, as I've explained, because we do comparison and come up with evidence which is more relevant to us from the devices. Most important thing is the developed method works in seconds in most of the cases, which is very relevant when we carry out this in the field, because evidence acquisition using the agent could be carried out in the field and you can uncover a lot of evidence there. Then natural language processing techniques were used that included probabilistic finite state machines and dynamic programming techniques such as Vertebrate algorithm. Extensive empirical evaluation was carried out so that whatever performance factors are important, they could be showcased as the performance is better than other methods. Again, important point to prove the research work is probably giving good results is we could manage to achieve 97% recall in most of the cases and 80% precision for call logs. And this was bettered for address books in terms of 93%. New unseen models are coming, this precision can be improved there. So the complete usefulness of efficient generalized forensics framework for mobile devices was showcased for Android, iOS, Windows, BlackBerry, Symbian-based devices by carrying out evidence extraction, investigation and reporting on these devices. And this complete framework and the research is probably basis for a lot of future research which would be carried out using the same method for coming up with universal methods or generic methods which would be relevant for different mobile devices which might come in future. The framework developed is very efficient considering the overall performance of 86% precision and 93% recall on an average for different artifacts which are present on the mobile devices. This is the future scope of work which could be carried out if required. Further testing and benchmarking could be done for some of the remaining 5% devices. Major work was focused on 95% of the operating systems which are predominantly used these days. Again, acquisition algorithm could be refined if needed based on further testing if required. Right now, when we compared the acquisition algorithm with other methods which are out there, the performance was found to be better as I've just shown during the experimental results. The most important thing is releasing this in open source. Once my research work is submitted, after that I'm planning to release everything in open source so that all the fellow researchers like you could contribute to this if you have research interest in this. Rigorous proof of integrity on all new smartphones can be carried out because there could be new devices which might be coming up on which we can carry out the experimental analysis, because what is coming in future, even I'm not too sure about that. So even me and others could be involved once this goes in open source. That is again mentioned here, how to welcome new devices. This could be a continuous challenge because every day new devices, new operating systems are coming up, and that could add to complexity of this. These are some of the selected references. In my thesis, I am going to refer more than 200 research papers. Some of the selected references are mentioned here, which are used for this presentation. So this includes most of the references from 2014 as well, which are very relevant. The national conference papers. So in all, more than 17 research papers were published. I'm sorry, 20 research papers were published, including the national conference publication. If you look at my research contribution, if you go and search on Google and input mobile forensics, you'll find my research work, which is highly cited. So I'm not sure about now, but on PageRank, the paper which I presented in past, they come on first page. Again, Google Scholar, I have high citation, H index of 4. These are all relevant papers. So currently, I have more than 52 citations. At the time when I submitted the summary, there were 48. So the count is increasing day by day. So every month there are new citations which are coming up, and all these citations are from big universities in US, Europe, and other parts of the world. So this is my academia.com analytics page. So every week there are more than 50 to 100 views for the research papers which I have uploaded there, and I'm in top 1% on academia.com, so which is again one of the good things as a researcher for me. Again, as part of invited talk, I was invited at a big conference called as ICST, Conference on Digital Forensics and Cybercrime. This happened at Abu Dhabi, UAE. It's one of the premier events. And I talked about the need for development of standardization of process guidelines, which I've come up with now as part of my research work. So I presented the need there, and the final implementation was done as part of my research work. Even some of the processes like CERT-In, they refer my work.
Do not have awareness on. I have couple of questions as well as couple of suggestions to make. where did you use the probabilistic models, and then why did you use the likelihood?
See, what happens, sir, if we look at the amount of data on the phone, I was not able to get proper matches in terms of getting the output which I was expecting. So that's why I was faced with a challenge with coming up with hierarchical implementation. So if I go back to one of the slides, if you allow me please. So I was not getting proper matches and I was forced to come up with a methodology so that I could get proper results. So if you could see this example, you have name, number and timestamp. But if you look at the amount of data which is there on the phone, which is in hex, and getting matches to all this was difficult. And some of this data, timestamp, could be relevant for call logs, could be relevant for text messages. So that's why I was forced to come up with the hierarchical implementation along with probabilistic finite state machine implementation so that I can get better matching. And I have done implementation at two levels. One was field level and second was record level. So here is an example of probably you can see a record level where I have name, number and timestamp. It's a call.
But this is possible by the mobile operators also. If I am doing an investigation and if the government agencies allow me, which automatically they allow when you are appointed as an investigator, you can request the telephone operators also, they will give you this data.
Right, sir. That's correct.
So
that is part of CDR records.
Yeah.
And I think I have mentioned that in my limitations. That if that data is not available in some cases, so you can still use this one.
So my question is, where did you use BFSM, and why it was a need to use the neural networks? You said like the likelihood approach.
So first was this filtering approach was used to get the filtered byte stream. So this was the complete extracted data. So out of that I tried to extract filtered byte stream which could be relevant.
No, my question is different. My question is, you must have got some data by the probabilistic
yes,
models.
Yes, it is.
So then, which data could qualify as the likelihood data?
Exactly. So what I tried to do is see the matching process. In case some data could be common, as I said, for both the cases, this is about timestamp. So this filtered byte stream was subjected to inference engine which involved multivariate decision tree, which involved finite state machines, so that whatever data I am getting, it could be further pattern matched based on my historical chunk or historical data store hashes what I have, so that I could know this is relevant to this type of data. That is why I was forced to use first this approach, then the Vertibri approach to do the matching. And again, let me show you again one of the examples. So this is an example for you can say phone number. Again, if I move to the next slide, phone number is part of name and timestamp. So that I faced complexity wherein I was getting timestamp in multiple cases. That's why I only went for probabilistic finite state machines initially, but I could not get the matches which I was expecting as part of limit. That's why I need to implement the inference.
See, the suggestion number one here will be, you should always this procedure is perfect. There is no problem. In any domain of engineering, either it is biological sciences also, what we do is we go for the probability in the real life also. First of all, when we write a paper, we never know that it will be accepted in a Scopus journal or what kind of journal. So we just based upon our work, we see that what is the probability of this paper to be accepted in some journals. Then, if it gets rejected from two places with some reasons, we know that where we stand.
Right.
Then we do some kind of modifications.
Right.
Then that paper is again edited, we again rewrite. Similarly, the data which you are probabilizing here, once you know the criteria, which kind of data will qualify for likelihood, because likelihood is something which is very, very important. And the kind of accuracy which you are showing, 87%, if the likelihood accuracy is even more than 50%, it is a marvelous kind of result.
Right.
Probability will always be 50%. You go for 87 or 97 or even 100%. So you should make a criteria here as per a personal suggestion. that what kind of probabilistic data which you are getting can be considered as the likelihood data, and then concentrate more on archiving or achieving that likelihood data in your experiment. And for this, you will be requiring a lot of data. Now, the second thing is, did you go through the IT Act of India?
Yes, sir.
So, did you find anything? What is the you have kept mentioning that you used data, you used evidence. So, can you name some evidences? Where those evidences?
Exactly, sir. So, according to Evidence Act, any useful information which could probably showcase an act of crime could be used in this case. So, any digital data which could showcase that I have done some crime. So, in this case,
No, how do you define crime here? See, as you rightly mentioned, India is lagging behind.
Right.
I agree with you, and every forensic fraternity agrees that our IT Act is not so strong.
Absolutely.
So whatever information you have, I will read a couple of lines for you. So use those things as your data and evidence. This algorithm is perfect.
Right.
But when you say evidence, when you say
I need to define.
yeah, you need to define those things.
From law's perspective.
Yes.
Yes.
If you do not have this data, I will email it to you. Otherwise, it is publicly available.
6A and 66.
66C says punishment for identity theft. So the data may be an identity document. Nowadays, everybody in the mobile phone will be having the scanned copy of their passports, Aadhaar cards, and so many other identity documents. That theft. So maybe your data can be our identity.
Right, right.
66F says punishment for cyber terrorism. Maybe some kind of material. Let us say you just go back to the Mumbai bomb blast.
Absolutely.
What these people were doing is they were seeing the news, what was running in the Indian media, and they were utilizing their mobile phones to send the